Hello. Firstly, let me apologise for my lack of videos in the last week. A few reasons. One, I had a massive game of 30k. It's very, very cool. Play it. And obviously, everything that's been going on in the LARP world with PD sort of interrupted what I was planning with these videos, and I thought it was quite important and it needed talking about, so I started talking about it. And very quickly the whole thing devolved into just mudslinging, really. And I thought it was probably best, while having my massive game of 30k, to basically have a pause for a little bit and let the dust settle, because things started moving so fast. And when I put one of these videos together, it can take a good few hours to get it all done, and I want to try and get people's quotes as right as possible and things like that. Every time I started making this video, the whole thing had changed so rapidly that everything I'd said was basically null and void anyway. So yeah, I've had some very odd conversations. Some what I thought were about to be good ones, and then realised that it was essentially pointless. The two conversations I want to sort of mention briefly is, one was with a player, a LARPer I've LARPed with many times, so I've got tremendous respect for. I think has really worried me now, because it's been a good example for me of what this attitude in the community is doing to perfectly intelligent, rational people, or who at least I thought were. And to sum that conversation up, I put a little video together to go with it, and I'm just having a bit of a laugh. But so there's no confusion, I'm playing the role of the other person, and Phantom, my horse, is playing the role of me.
Now, I'm not being funny, but you are a horse, and I find that incredibly offensive. I don't care that you were born that way. If you're a horse, I'm offended, and if I'm offended, you've done something to offend me, which means you're wrong. And I don't care if you were born that way. It's wrong. You need to apologise. You're not going to apologise? You're not going to apologise, you fascist pig.
Okay, so that conversation is up on my Facebook if anyone's curious. But as far as I could see, and I did ask for clarification and it never came, but as far as I could see, they were sort of saying, well, if you being male has offended people, then you do need to apologise for it, because if you're offending people, you've clearly done something wrong. And I just can't help but think, if it was anything else, if I was Jewish and they were criticising me for that, no one would expect me to need to apologise to them for that, and I really don't see a difference. But anyway, that conversation's there. Go and check it out if you want to. Although, again, there's not much point. I mean, the horse video basically summed it up. The other conversation I had, which I was really hoping was going to be very productive, was with one of the game organisers of PD. Sorry, I do make it a policy not to say names. I don't want to. I think I probably could. There's not much reason why I'm not, but I don't want to break the policy. So there you go. Yeah. So they engaged with me, and it really didn't get anywhere. Basically, very quickly I was confronted by mountains of text, all not addressing the point I was raising at all. Doing anything but addressing the point I was raising, really. So it was a bit hard. I do want to make one thing clear. The person in question I don't have any beef with, really, at all. I completely respect them, and I must admit I'm somewhat jealous of them. I think they run a very cool company. I'm just very worried about where the current trend in the community is taking profound decisions. The other reason I didn't really carry on with the conversation, other than I really just didn't feel like I was going to get anywhere, was that they were involved in so many other conversations at the same time. I didn't really want to take up any more of their time at that point. I thought I'll let the dust settle a bit and look back on what's happened. And we've got an awful lot that's happened, because there's been a big push from, I'd say, the opposite side to where I am, with a petition that you may have seen that came up. And I found it bizarre more than anything. Because my complaint is, I think PD's standard of evidence is way too low, if existent at all. And their complaint was that it's way too high. So, polar opposites, I can't for the life of me work out how they read that into it. But there you go. So, I watched many conversations happening across different feeds on Facebook to see what was being said and how people were taking it. And it's obviously been a very polarising issue. And I think for largely strange reasons. But when I've seen people who are closely connected with PD respond to this, I've seen some of them be quite polarised as well. But some of them have been very odd. Like, one of them has essentially been, I don't get why people are beating up on PD. Other LARPs are worse. Well, because people don't want your LARP to be worse. They want it to be better. That was weird. I mean, to give a strange analogy, it's like, well, I only stole a Snickers from the shop. That person stole 2 Snickers and a Curly Wurly. It doesn't make you okay because something else is better. And people are allowed to criticise something. It's fine at the moment. But one of the other responses I kept finding interesting was, depending who was being spoken to and depending who was speaking, obviously, the responses were so very different, from things like, evidence is incredibly important to us and we would never ban people without it, to things like, hearsay is enough. No, it's not. That's not evidence. And also, and I'm sorry, this was just a terrible PR move as far as I can see. Although it got like 200 odd likes last time I looked at it. I think it was a high number. Halfway through, you say these are our events and fuck the police. No. Oh, in fairness, it goes on to then say we would fully support someone's decision to get the police involved if they felt it was necessary. But reading between the lines a bit there, you're saying fuck the police, you don't want them coming on your side. And fair enough, it gives the game bad publicity. And so I understand that. But if you actually think a sexual assault has been committed at your event, call the police. I don't think there should be ever an if or but about that. I don't think there should be, well, it's my event, fuck the police. Call them. If the victim of the assault is a bit nervous about calling the police, or doesn't want to, is scared to do that, I understand those feelings. And I understand that would be hard. But I think if it's happened on your event, regardless of anyone's feelings, you should call the police, because as far as I'm aware, you're not professionally trained to handle that sort of thing. And that's not me like having a dig at you. I mean, I'm not. Not many people are, but you're not professionally trained to handle that sort of things. So get someone who is. And you don't need to hire someone for that. You don't need to get a volunteer for someone for that. The police will do it. The police will do a perfectly adequate job of that. So let them. If that happens, and this is the thing. This is where it also gets other contradictions coming in, because you've got people saying that it's so rare that anything like that would happen, that it's not worth this much thought and effort going into it. And then you've got the same person in another conversation saying that it's so frequent that we need tougher rules, we need tough regulation on it, we perhaps need background checks before we let people come to the event, which it just opens up a fucking circus of madness. But some of these quotes were from the same person in different conversations. It's amazing how contradictory and mental this has been. Now, one of the criticisms I got from someone, which I think it was made in jest, I'm pretty sure, but it might have actually been the best thing anyone's said as a negative to me, the most constructive thing that they've said. And it was, if you don't like the rules, why don't you write them yourself? Now, okay, one, because I don't work for PD, and I wouldn't presume I'm particularly the person for the job to write these rules, mostly because there'll be spelling mistakes. But, okay, I'll give it a go. Let's have a look what I came up with. Okay, this isn't going to be perfect. I'll put a link in the description down somewhere down there to their rules on this, so you can read along. I'm not going to read out their rules, then read out mine, because it'll just take forever. I'm just going to read out what I've changed it to, but by all means, go and read the original if you're not sure what it said, or you just need to remind yourself. For some of this, I've changed what they've said. Obviously, that's my task, I suppose. For other bits, I've just kept their wording and deleted the bits that I think were just unnecessary, and just complicate things that didn't need to get complicated. But yeah, so to put this into perspective, PD's was 1,242 words, and my version is 201 words. I was trying to get it to 200. I actually could get this shorter, which I'll go into in a second, but here we go. Real-world discrimination is unacceptable at our games. Acceptable behaviour at our events. Our games include adult themes, and we expect you to behave as an adult. We will also treat you as such. Job done. Language. We ask only that you watch your language while in earshot of minors that may be present. Job done. Acceptable behaviour online. While using a forum we moderate, please be advised that we may take down any comment we feel is inappropriate for the forum. Your forum, do what you like. This one I wouldn't have bothered of putting in at all, so this is where I could get my word use down, but as they have put it in, I've addressed it. Sexual harassment. As this is a crime, we really don't need to make any rules about it, as very real-world rules already exist. Just in the same way, you don't need to put a policy up for murder at your events. You don't need to put a policy up for theft at your events. You can, if you want, but you don't need to, because they're crimes. There are already rules for these things. Okay, moving on. Our behaviour. Profound Decisions is committed to creating an environment where there is mutual respect and equality of opportunity for all participants. We want our games to be inclusive, where everyone can take part and everyone is welcome. And I've stopped there on that one. That's their own word use. I've rubbed out I'd about 340 words or something that come after that, which just make it needlessly complicated. That says it. You want to make a welcoming environment for everyone. There you go, done. Cool. Everyone includes everyone. Complaints. Opposing discrimination and harassment is not causing trouble. It's helping to build a better event for everyone. Minor infractions of our rules will be dealt with on a warning basis that could lead to a ban. Any and all breaches of the law that are brought to our attention will be handled by the appropriate authority. Done. That's all you needed to say, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't think either side would have a massive issue with this. There might be a few, but and as I said, I did this pretty quick. If I was writing the entire thing from scratch rather than just showing what I would have done using that template, it would be a bit different again. But if you want equality for everyone, as far as I'm concerned, that's basically all you have to say. If you want to treat everyone fairly, that's all you have to say. Everyone will be treated fairly. As soon as you start bringing in the different groups of people you are going to be treating fairly, inevitably you're going to leave someone out, who might be thinking, well, why wasn't I treated fair? All you need to do to say you're going to treat everyone fairly is say, we're going to treat everyone fairly. And that's it. That's it. So yeah, my conclusion to all this, because I do want to move on with other videos. I've got a stupid post to Facebook I haven't done in like 3 weeks nearly now. And I've got other LARP ones that I wanted to do before all this popped up. So I kind of want to leave it here, but this is my conclusion to it. Don't try to appease people demanding equality, but for example, I'll do the one that as far as I'm aware, actually, PD have now backtracked on a bit, but I will bring it up, which is the term empress. So their ruling monarch was to be an empress, and it's still there in that document that they consider that a gender neutral term, which obviously isn't. Very, very obviously isn't. I just don't try to appease people who are saying we need equality, therefore everything must be gendered this way. Because that's not equality. And also, you're not going to make them happy. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. Ever. There are lots of examples, which I've talked about a few in other videos, so I won't mention them all here. And I've got other videos planned where I'm talking about them as well. But honestly, just stop trying to appease these people, because these people can't be appeased. They don't want to be appeased. The last thing they want is to be appeased. And I'm honestly not sure what could appease them, because they're so contradictory anyway. Stop trying. If you want to treat everyone fairly, brilliant. And pretty much everybody is going to be in support of you doing that. But I didn't think you weren't anyway. And I'm not sure anyone else did. And the people who might have thought that are probably the people who demand empress as the term. If you want a gender neutral word, head of state, monarch, sovereign, leader. There are lots you could pick from. In saying that was a gender neutral word just made you look like idiots. And that's my worry about where the trend on the whole in the LARP world has been going. I don't think it'll last forever, because I think these people will burn themselves out, because they're too fanatical. I mean, when you look at the petition that was set up for this, that's what happens when you try to appease them. They just get angrier. Don't. And just don't bring it up. You don't want to bring up anything about gender, just don't bring up anything about gender. You don't want to bring up anything about race, don't do it. The only things you should ever need to say is you won't discriminate on those grounds. And that would be my conclusion. I'm sure this will carry on at some point. I'm sure it'll circle round and become a living nightmare once again for everyone involved. But for now, I'll move on to other videos.